Hello, good morning. Good morning. Can you guys hear me? Welcome to the Value Creation School. Please let me know if you can hear me all right. If you can hear me this morning, I'm excited to be with you again. But I'd like to know if you have connected. Today, we're going to be looking at something very important for value creators. If you want to create value, something very critical. Last week, we took our time to treat the concept of understanding value creation. That was what we did last week. This week, we're going to take it a step further. And I want to believe that you had a very fulfilling week and that you were able to make the most of the principles we shared. So let me know who is collecting this morning and where you're connecting from. Welcome to the Value Creation School. Okay, guys, this morning I'm going to get started immediately because of time. Okay, so we're looking at the mechanics of value creation. The mechanics of value creation. Yeah, good to see you, Olive. We're looking at the mechanics of value creation. Something a bit technical. We're going to go a bit technical this morning, but I'd like you to follow me because then you're going to be having insights into how you can basically live the life of a value creator. What does it mean to live the life of a value creator? And apply these principles on a day to day. You go beyond understanding what value creation means and applying it in your life. Applying it in your life. That's what we're going to look at. We're going to be, first of all, we're going to be looking at the value creation cycle. The value creation cycle. Very important concept I want to bring to you this morning. The value creation cycle. If you notice this morning, we're going to be a bit quick and then go delve into the concepts because I want to leave you with substantial value. Okay, so what is the value creation cycle? It's a very important principle that gets you to launch out immediately as a value creator. And this basically defines the difference between people who are still living a low life and people who have advanced in creating wealth for themselves. People who have done that are persons who have understood the value creation cycle. Everything in life works within a cycle, really. And I'm going to take you through that pertains to value creation this morning. And once you factor in this into your life, into your personal life, and into your external life, that is into your internal circumstances, internal life, and in your external life, applying this value creation cycle would help you a lot. Now, what is the value creation cycle? Now, there is usually the zero level. The zero level or level zero is the level where you have inherited the the raw resources, the raw deposits. Every one of us is given some raw deposits in form of talents, in form of natural resources. Nigeria is immensely blessed with natural resources, right? So those exist at the level zero, at the raw state. And this state, we don't really consider it as value creation. That's why we give it level zero because we inherited it. We didn't marry them, so to speak. You came in here and you found out you had a good voice, right? Okay. Wonderful. You find out that you have artistic skills. Excellent. These are deposits. You came in here and found out that you live in a region of Nigeria where there is what? Crude oil. Wonderful. You didn't plan, you didn't do anything in order to find yourself in those that region of the country. So you inherited it. It wasn't because of any effort you made. You found yourself with these deposits. And this is one of the things that give us that mindset that there is a creator, right? Good. Now, that's God Himself, the ultimate value creator. So He had created that value. It's not you now. He had made that deposit in you. He has made that deposit for you. But then we have been called to become co-creators. We have been called to become co-creators. We are value creators in every essence of it. That is why we're going to move at every time from zero level to level one. People who have understood how to move from deposits, from natural deposits to the next level of value creation are persons who are value creators. So your ability to move from level zero in value creation to the next and higher level is what makes you a value creator. That ability. So level one is where value creation starts. That's where value creation starts, and we call it value refinement. We call it level one, refine, a value refinement. So this is where you begin to think of, how do I refine what I have? How do I define the value I have? How do I refine the deposits that I met within myself? How do I refine them? And what does refinement mean? What does it mean? It means adding more quality to something, giving more quality to something, right? Taking it to a level of higher value. That is what we mean by refinement. You see, this has been refined. We have refined this value. We have refined this deposit. We have taken it a notch further. We have polished it. We have improved it. We see what we have gotten to level one. We say we have refined it. You will always beat the person that is at level zero. Your ability to refine your deposits, your ability to refine your talents, your ability to refine the natural resources you have takes you a notch higher, takes you to a higher. You're wealthier. That is the point here. You find yourself that you're wealthier than the person who left their resources, who left their deposits at the raw state. And it's unfortunate that in Africa, for the most part, we have remained at level zero, not even level one. We have remained at level zero. That is at this raw state, at the state where we left our resources and started consuming them at that point. All right. We started consuming our resources at the point of zero, at the point of no value created. And that is why, for the most part, the inhabitants of Africa as a continent even considered to be poor. They are considered to be poor. And it has been found, and that is what is called the Dutch disease, that the more of a natural resource a country has, the more poverty, the more poverty they have. What a paradox. You have resources. The more blessed you are, you find out also that the more poor you are. And that is a mindset. That is the level of zero. And that is about consumption, the mindset consumption. And we know last week we looked at the net value creation. Net value creation. A net value creator is someone who is creating more value than the value they consume, right? So the value you create minus the value you consume would give you a net value, right? To give you a net value. So when we consume more than we create, then we are not value creators. We are simply value consumers. So we wait for another region of the world. We wait for some other person to give us the value that we then consume. And that is the spirit of Esau. The Esau concept is such that you sell what you have in its raw state in exchange for something another person has, something that has already been polished by another person, in exchange for value which has been created by the other. Yeah, imminent consumption. That spirit to immediately consume something, we say that it is what we call it the ESA concept. So we as persons who have found ourselves in this region of the world, Africans, must begin to understand that we cannot move beyond the state of poverty without creating value. And the lowest value of lowest level of value is refinement, value refinement. Let me even say this. You say it's funny that we have crude oil in Nigeria and we export the crude oil for the most part in order to import refined petrol to use. We export crude oil and then we import petrol to consume. And that is sad. That is sad. That is really sad. That is really sad. Yeah. Because we can't consume crude oil. It's in its natural state. And then we don't even want to step up to the first level of value creation, which is refining the crude oil. No, 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 no. We don't want to get into that. We don't want to exercise our minds. Because this is where we become creators. The crude oil was created by someone else. And we discover it, then we want to take it up and consume it in that raw state. And since we can't consume in that raw state, we give it to other people that can refine it and give it to us to consume, because we are people that are wired to consume. We are value consumers. We are not value creators. Even at the first level of value creation, we don't even operate there. And if you have seen how poverty has grown over the years, the line of poverty in Nigeria, you find out that poverty began to actually even decline at some point when that innovations came in. So as more crude oil was being discovered in the 70s and 80s, as more crude oil came, the more Nigerians became poor, the more Naira got devalued, right? So we now found out that at some point around 2000s and all of that, mid to 2000, 2005, thereabouts, found out that as innovation came in the fintech or in telecommunications, poverty started to decrease. So you find out all the time, when you create value, you climb the ladder of wealth. So this level is also called the process of mastery. It's also called the process of mastery. This is where you become a person that can move from the raw talents they have to a point of polished skills now, right? Polished talent, which is skills. You don't dwell in that crude state, that crude ability that has been made deposits in you, that crude state. You don't remain there. You begin to ask the right questions. How do I polish these skills? Can I go to school? Can I get more education in order to become a master in this field? And this is important. This is important we understand. We need to begin to polish what deposits that are left inside of us. That's our internal life, and even in our external life, identify the things over that have been given to us and begin to ask the right questions on how they can be given more value, or how they can be further refined, polished. And that is mastery. So I don't know, you listening to me this morning, what is the deposit you've got in your external world and your internal world, and your internal world, in your internal life. External world will be the resources at your disposal. And this is where the law of conversion comes in. Everything that you process, you convert, will always have a higher point of value after being converted. So, what are the natural resources? What are the natural deposits at your disposal? And it will shock you what that means. It will shock you what that means. This is the scale of application of this is mind blowing when I think about it. It applies to most things. So, let's even say that you've got staff, you've got some staff, people working with you. When you use them, when you deploy them in their raw state, when you deploy them as you have hired them, right? What you have done is that you're using them at the raw states at level 0. You are expected to further polish them. You're expected to refine them as a value creator. As a value creator. When God gives you children, right? You give birth to children and all of that. You send them to school because you want to polish them. You want them to become, you want to refine them. You want them to become of higher value. Because if you left them without sending them to school and without giving them some form of education, whether formal or informal, the problem is that they will remain crude, and they will be of less value, if any value at all, to the society. They become nuisance to the society. That's why you see people begging in the street. Why are they begging? Why they're begging is because they have not been refined. There is no value. There is no value that has been, because they're still acting within their natural instincts, which is to just beg, which is to eat, eat. They are not better than animals. You see what's going on there? They're not better than animals, because animals are in their raw states. They're not giving the minds of value creators. So they're still in just their raw states. So if you exhibit your life, if you live your life at that raw state without making effort to polish yourself, to harness what is right deposited inside of you, then you're just animalistic. You're acting within your animal instincts, right? And it cuts across. It cuts across. It cuts across. You should begin to ask the right questions as to how do I extract even more value? How do I create value within this resource, this deposit that I have? That is the right question to ask. And as you set out for your week, this from today, you begin to ask that question. You're going to have new sets of eyes to see what deposits you have, to see what you've been blessed with, and begin to ask the next question, which is, how do I polish this? How do I get more value from this? How do I make this better? How do I increase the value, the quality? It becomes a critical question to ask. Consider cassava. All of us, we know cassava, right? When you go to your farm to harvest cassava as a farmer, and pay attention to this, because this is why most farmers in Africa are poor and all over the place. It's a value chain, right? It's a whole um, sector. So when you see someone who is operating at the lowest level in the value chain, they are poorer than the next other person, or they are poorest than any other person acting in the value chain most of the time, right? So you see that farmer that has gone to the farm and harvested cassava, they're operating at level zero, as a matter of fact. With respect to the cassava, they are at level zero. But look what happens when they take that cassava and they sell it at the level that it's a cassava. They make just about $100 per ton of cassava. $100 per ton of cassava. Now, when they take that cassava, however, when they take that cassava and decide to refine it, refine it, polish it, make it, process it to become gari that people can then eat and swallow and consume as food, right? It jumps immediately from $100 per ton to about $250 per ton. Yes, cassava, Gary, $250 per ton. That is the jump, more than two times the value. Think about that. More than two times the value. Think about that. Then it gets interesting. It gets interesting because as value creators, we don't just stop at refining. In fact, that is level one, guys. It's level one. You're going to move further. And again, this thing I say to you this morning applies in all fields, applies in all dimensions you can think of. Even when you get married, when you get a spouse, you can get a wife into your house as your wife, a woman into your wife, into your house, into your life as a wife. What happens? You don't leave her at that state as well. You want to go ahead and begin to also, give value to her, refine her, and all of that to better serve the purpose which you have been called as a family, as a person to fulfill. While you're working on yourself, she's also working on yourself because at the raw state you guys are, you're not fit to achieve the purpose you have been given. You have to keep refining yourself and adding value to yourselves. That is really how life works. That is really how life works. So let us discuss the concepts, the next level of value. The next level of value. One second. All right. So the next level of value is what we call redefinition. Redefine value. Redefine. That is the next level. And you call it the process of perspective shift. The process of perspective shift. Redefine. 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 What does this even mean? When we say you redefine, what does that even mean? To see your existing value differently. You must begin to see your existing value differently. Begin to see your existing value what differently. See it differently. Change perspectives about what you currently have as value. You have polished it, but you don't stop at polishing it. Please, you don't stop at polishing it. You don't stop at giving it more quality. You don't stop at refining it. You must go ahead to see how it can have what new definitions. New definitions. How can I give it a new definition from what it is today? How can I give it a new definition? That is where wealth creation begins to increase. That's where begins to increase. Please never stop at polishing it. Think about how do I redefine it? How do I redefine it? How do I put it into new contexts? How do I bring it to new audiences? That is what redefining. It, so sometimes it is the same product, but you're taking it to a new market. The same product, you're taking it to the new to a new market, right? So you're basically um, redefining that product. Okay, so that is what we talk about when we say redefine. Give it a new definition. Give it a new definition. Change the perspective, the lenses through which people are looking at it today. That is what is critical when it comes to value creation. Making that switch from one form to the other, from something that is polished to something that has a higher level of repositioning. That is what we call what redefining. Give it a new meaning, so to speak. Give it a new meaning, so to speak. Right? People would still be able to trace the origin as being what okay, this is how it was in its raw state. This is how when we got to refine it, and now this is how it is at this stage of being redefined. People can still um, trace the origin, the journey. People can still trace that journey. That is at the level of redefinement. I continue with my example with cassava. So you see, cassava um, moved on being polished and refined to become what? Gary. But it doesn't stop at being Gary. If you want to be a value creator, you don't stop at it being Gary. You move it further. You move it further to say, okay, fine. We can actually make this to become cassava flour. You see, we can make it to become cassava flour. So what has happened is that beyond processing it to become to the next level, in the first level, which was to just get it to become you know, food which people can swallow and all of that, you can begin to see how can we redefine the purpose of this thing, right? So that how can we redefine it so that it's not just what people can consume at that level, and that minimal effort. How can we get it to have a different meaning entirely? Can it become a flower? Can it become a flower? Can we give it a higher level of purpose? So that is a redefinement. You have the ability to take care of people, and they say, look, you need to go and train to become a doctor. You have that, you're brilliant, you care about people and all of that. They say, okay, fine, go and become a medical doctor. So how do you become a medical doctor? You go to school, you build, you refine yourself. Become a medical doctor is just level one. It's just level one. What you have done is that you have refined yourself. You're now a doctor, right? You have refined yourself. But do you stop there? No, you don't stop there. Otherwise, you will still die poor. Doctors can be poor and die poor, right? You take it a next step further to begin to redefine yourself. Say, no, I'm not going to just be a doctor. I'm going to do specialize. I'm going to add more value. I'm going to position myself as not just a doctor, but an ophthalmologist, as not just a doctor, but a public health physician, as not just a doctor, but an obstetrician. You are going to add more value to yourself. You're going to reposition yourself from that state that people see you as just a mere doctor, a general doctor, a general purpose person. No, you move it, take it a next step further. You're a teacher. You can teach. You can pass knowledge to people. Yeah, you can pass knowledge to people. They say, okay, fine, go and learn how to go and learn, you know, teaching. Go to school of education. Then you become a teacher. That is wonderful. You have polished your skills. You know, you have polished yourself. Then you move from that level. You move from that level, and then you begin to think, okay, as a teacher, how can I now prepare curriculum? How can I be a curriculum expert? So what is happening is that you're shifting. That's what we call the perspective shift. Perspective shift. So that you're being seen differently. You're being seen differently. You're being seen different, but we can still trace the fact that you're a teacher. We can still trace the fact that you're a doctor. It can still be traced. Do you understand what is going on here? It can still be traced. So you find out that something like that cassava flour now is no more just at cassava flour. We no more sell at 250 tons per $250 per ton, but now it's around $600 per ton at the level of cassava flour. Can now use it. They can now use it, repurpose it to do bread and all those other things, right? But we can still call it cassava. It still has that nomenclature, cassava. We can still trace its roots. Yeah, so you don't stop at the level of refining. You take it a next step further to the level of what? Redefinition. Give it a new definition. What do you have today in your life that you have polished? Can you begin to think of a new definition to give it? Can you begin to give it a new definition? Can you begin to give it a new meaning? Very important. Can you begin to give it a new meaning? Ask yourself, how can I give this particular thing a new meaning? Think about the different contexts in which you can take that into, and it will mean something different while you polish it, while you enhance its value. That is the next level of wealth creation, the next level of value creation. Okay, okay. Remember, there as people climb this ladder of value, it's like a pyramid. It gets narrower in the pyramid. It's fewer people that operate at this level of value redefinition. It's fewer people. They come to understand how to reposition what the value that they have, reposition it into different other perspectives, into different other fields of value. Yes, for different audiences and all of that. But it gets even interesting. The super wealthy people don't stay at this level. The super wealthy people don't stay at this level. They go to the next and higher level. And this is the last level of value creation, which is repurposing. Repurpose, repurpose, repurpose. So if you want to stay relevant in a changing world, you need to do what? Redefine. You keep changing the meaning of stuff, right? Keep changing the meaning of the value because the world is changing. The world is changing. But look, you don't stop there. You don't stop there. You can take it to a next and higher level that it can outlive you, and that's repurposing. Now, repurposing gets interesting because what happens here is that now the process of what giving it a different essence and giving that value a different essence altogether. You cannot trace it. You cannot trace it. That is the level of multiplication. That is the level of taking it to a new regeneration, right? That's a new generation of value. A new generation of value. A new generation of value. It's crazy explaining this sometimes. Now, let me still continue on the cassava example. It was a cassava, it was $100. It moved on to being a flour, sorry, to being gari, and it was $250 per ton. Then it moved on to be what? Cassava flour, and it was like $600 per ton. But gentlemen and ladies, it at this level, it was what redefine. It was still what cassava, and we could still give it that nomenclature. We could still trace it to this point and say this is what cassava flour. That nomenclature of cassava was still there and they're redefining. But giants, wealth giants, value creation giants operate beyond this level. right? And where you cannot even trace the origin, because that cassava that you have can become a biofuel. It can become it can be used as even in the pharmaceuticals, the pharmaceuticals, right? The paracetamol that you take, the Panadol you take, all those chalks, right? All those starch you have in your pharmaceuticals that you swallow, they are basically from cassava. Now, what does that tell us? You cannot stress it. You cannot say that this is cassava drug. You see, you cannot say this is cassava drug. That nomenclature doesn't follow it. It has been repurposed. The essence of it has been changed completely. Think about the cotton economy. Cotton, we wear shirts, right? So it starts from cotton, right? You move gradually until you find people now that are selling apparels and all of that. That is at the point of what redefining. It has moved from cotton. It's now something people are wearing. But let me tell you, the wealthy guys in the value chain of apparels don't dwell at clothes. They sell brands. They sell brands. Some of us that wear stuff, we go to buy name, we go to buy brands. We don't buy the, it's not the apparel that we wear, we're wearing the brands. So those guys at the highest level are selling brands. And you cannot trace cotton to the brands. They can literally sell the brand and diversify the brand to other things that don't have anything with apparels. But that is how it happens, right? So you see Tommy Hilfiger, they're on apparel, they're on clothes made with cotton. You also see them now on other apparels, on other wares that may not even on watch or shoe, whatever it is now. It's brand that they're selling at that point. But it all started as cotton. Someone decided to play at the highest level of value creation. You see what's going on here. So you're going to begin to rethink the value you create. You're asking yourself, how do I repurpose it? How do I take it to a new dimension of value? How can I step it further? How can I step it further? For a human being who has understood, okay, I'm I'm supposed to be a doctor. I'm now a doctor. That is, I've been refined. It's level one. Okay, I become a specialist, public health physician. I'm in level two because I have redefined myself from being just a doctor to what a public health physician. I've given myself a new definition. Okay, but then you take it a next level further. The next level further is now thinking, okay, fine. As a public health physician, what problem in the site can I solve with my ability of being a public health physician? You say, oh wow, you can actually come up with new systems to strengthen healthcare with technology. So what happens here is that you now adopt technology towards strengthening healthcare, towards providing mental health services. So you build an app that can solve mental health problems, right? Using the principles of public health, which you have known. By the end of the day, an app is built, a system is built. That system cannot necessarily be traced back to a doctor. You see, it has a higher level of purpose. It has a higher level of purpose. And that is what is going to give you more wealth than collecting salary as a doctor or collecting salary as a public health physician. This is what we talk about when we talk about what repurposing. Very important for us to know this. When we talk about repurposing, we are talking about taking something to the point of multiplication. To the point of multiplication. You want to ask yourself, how can I give more value, repurpose the value which we are creating today? How can we take it to the realm of multiplication? You can begin to think about different dimensions of conversion. This is all in the process or the law of applying the law of conversion. My past experiences, how can I convert them to a higher value? Begin to ask those questions. My failures, the lessons I've learned in the past. So that's why you see someone has gathered experiences and all of that. They're repackaging it to be a form of a course, like what I'm doing this morning, right? I didn't just polish my skills to speak or to understand value creation. I'm also communicating and putting it in this channel, and then I can take it and polish it again and take it to a higher level. Maybe courses and all of that, and push it out there, package it, and build a brand around this, and diversify its essence and all of that into other products that is at a higher level. So what I'm saying this morning, as you set out there for the week, is to begin to ask yourself a critical question. What deposits do I have today? What value do I have today? What has been given to me in its natural form, in its natural state? And what is the next higher level of value that I can refine it to become, that I can redefine it to become, that I can repurpose it to become? Never you make the mistake of leaving your deposits, your talents, your resources at the level that you made them. You are making salary today. The value creator does not consume the salary. It's a seed. You don't consume everything. In fact, you get to a point in your life when, as the salary comes to you, you don't take from that to eat. What you take, when you understand this whole concept, you now find yourself, how can I refine this money that I have been given? How can I refine it, right? This value that I have, meaning how can I put it to other use such that I can make money from this money? When you now make money from that money, that is what you can begin to use. Yeah, that's what you can begin to consume. So we must come to this point where we understand what value creation is in its essence. You don't eat things at their natural state. You want to take them to the next and higher level of purpose. When you get to that next and higher level of purpose, it begins to serve you more value. It begins to serve the society more value than it is serving it today. And this, gentlemen and ladies, is what we call what value creation. This is what we call this life cycle of value creation. We must get to that point where we begin to ask critical questions about what we do with the value that we have, with the with the resources that we've got. So the value creation cycle, refine, refine what it is you have been given. Refine what it is that is the deposit that you have. Refine what it is that is the talent that you've got. What are you sharpening? How are you sharpening it? What have been given to you and how are you sharpening it? Ask that question all the time as you set out this week. Number two, redefine it. What other meaning can this have? In all, what other context can I push this value to? In what other concepts can I push this value to? How can I use it to serve other people? In other perspectives, how can I use it to serve other people? Right. So you begin to think about that. New markets, new products, what are other dimensions that this can get into? All right. Then you move from there to repurposing it. Repurposing it. How can I multiply the value? How can I take its essence differently that it is disruptive, that I cannot even trace back, trace its meaning back to the roots. So that is the way you begin to multiply the deposits you have, the value that you've got. This is very important that we understand. I have other things I wanted to share today, but because of time, I'm going to leave you with this. Go ahead and digest this. Go ahead and use this today and this week. the rest of the week, you're going to see what ideas that would flood your thoughts. You're going to see the essence of wealth creation. You're going to begin to see wealth all over you. You're going to see different dimensions of wealth. You're going to see how to multiply the wealth that you have today. You're going to see how to multiply the value that you have today. You're going to see how to multiply all the talents and the services you render today. Very important. Very important. We begin to see life from this perspective. That is how we can emerge there as persons who can become um you know shapers of our society. Shapers of our society. Remember, value is not to be consumed, it is to be created, right? Don't be a net value consumer, rather be a net value creator. Don't be a net value consumer, rather be a net value creator. Have this mindset as you go out there to drive your week. Have this concept as you go out there to drive your week. You may have to come back to this video and watch it again. You may also have to want to share it with your colleagues and let them to begin to speak the same language as you. Until then, you may not internalize enough what we're talking about. Remember also the pyramid of learning. You must be able to go out there and also teach this and talk to people about this concept. Then it will be internalized. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me this week. We're going to meet again 5 a.m. on Monday next week, and we'll gather to discuss other dimensions, other levels of value creation. Until then, I want to wish you a very beautiful week. Enjoy your week and be a value creator. Be a value creator, person of immense value. Thank you.